The rule of law, right, has not been able to withstand political pressures and various things.
So that's my point.
That has to develop.
So the current state as it is,
Yeah.
the current state as it is,
Yeah.
Mr. Rajapaksa as the president,
Yeah.
He has interfered with judiciary. Judiciary is no longer independent. So if the Tamil people were to bring any cases to the court, it would not be heard independently. And so what you would probably see in 10, 15 years down the line, Tamil people arming themselves and fighting again.
Very, very unlikely. Very unlikely.
Why? Because 149,000 have been eliminated.
Very unlikely, because I believe gradually rule of law will be re-established.
Okay. Let's ask you this question. Guru Paran, look, the simple question here is, who is benefiting from this current hegemony?
Yeah. No, that's a very good question, because I want to make it absolutely clear, and I say this with a lot of responsibility as someone who lives in that part of the island.
And
experience
law. You better abide by the law.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And with that sense of responsibility, I say this, that if you look at post-war Sri Lanka, it has been absolutely horrendous for the Tamils. I mean, just a couple of weeks back, there has been a report from one of the major human rights groups about continuing sexual violence. I'm talking about the minority rights group international, which is based in London, which has actually studied the situation very well and is reporting that sexual violence is reported rampantly from the north and east, where the Tamils live in majority. I mean, I've already told you about the land issue, the economy suffering. I mean, what they've done is laid down roads, whereas, for example, psychosocial support for the Tamil people is actively and openly blocked by the Sri Lankan government for the war traumatized people, the Tamil people of the north and east. They want to keep the Tamil people in that sense of trauma so that they are not able to. Now, the Defense Secretary, for example, has openly said that there is no part of the country where the numerically minor Tamil community can live with the majority. Now, that's a very clear plan for demographic change, and what we have seen is that in terms of creating cantonments for Sinhalese army soldiers belonging to the Sri Lankan army, which they are 99%, if not 100%, they are creating settlements in 80% or 90% Hindu and Christian areas, which Tamils are. And by the way, Tamil nationalism is secular in nature. We don't identify with any particular religion. Tamil nationalist politics in particular. Buddha viharas, Buddha temples are being constructed. Just a month back, the Sri Lankan army commander, and what does the army have to do with this is a question that you need to ask. The Sri Lankan army commander opened a new Buddha vihara in Mangulam, in Kilnochi. So I mean, this is the question.
So are you saying there is a cultural cleansing or ethnic cleansing of Tamil people, and imposition of also religious cleansing through the Buddhist militancy?
There is militarization, which is accompanied by singleization of the north and east, where the idea of Sri Lanka for the south, for not just for the present government, but generally that is shared among parties, is that Sri Lanka as a whole has to be a singular Buddhist nation state.
But
it has no place for.
But historically speaking, there is an iota of, or at least there is an ounce of weight behind the suggestion that a large number of Tamils were brought over from India who did not belong to Sri Lanka.
Now
is there any weight in that?
I think that's not historically true. And I mean, why go into that history? Now, would you, Aslam, for example, think that immigrant communities here don't have equal rights to national persons, for example? So I don't think we need to go into the question of history and who came first and who came second on the question of political rights and equality in terms of you being communities. But even if you go into the question of history, and I don't think any sane singular historian, academic historian, has disagreed with the fact that the Tamils have historically lived in the island and have had their own sense of governance over the.
I think the bigger question is the world is too small and we all move around.
Yeah.
Should that be a basis for a genocide? Is the bigger question I would like to ask. But let me go to a caller. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Who's calling?
I'm calling from Burnley. My name is Shafiqul Alam. I like to say something to you, brother.
Yes, go ahead.
Possibly you talked about the war crime in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
And war crime in Bangladesh as well. And in the present time, Syria in this war going on. Many where is a terrorist. I like to say is a former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan and President Ban Ki-moon is the UN Secretary General. If I seen them for 1 hour, whole world problem will be stopped.
Oh, thank you. I mean, you sound like the savior of the world. Maybe we should elect you as the president of United Nations, but I'm afraid you probably are nowhere near on the pecking order. The next caller. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, assalamu alaikum to you, and good evening to the panel.
Thank you very much. What would you like to say, young man?
Basically, I see the war. You know what happened to the Sri Lankan people when we go a couple of years back. You know, is disgusting, and this man should be prime minister. He should be accountable. He should go to international, criminal court in The Hague.
You mean the president, Mr. Raja
That's why
Paksha?
the president.
Yes.
But what I don't understand is what happened to Gaddafi and what happened in Syria and America and Britain interfered at that time. So what's the difference between Sri Lanka? It's the same genocide, of course.
No, but, hold on. There is a big difference. Sri Lanka is an independent country,
Okay.
and they're not asking for international
No,
troops
but
to go
and
in.
the UN is by humanitarian. What happened to the human beings is the life. And when you go back the history, Sri Lankan people were living there when majority of the Senegalese they from India. When the king, if you go back, 14th, 13th centuries back, they're originally from India. The Sri Lankans were living there in the first place. And I don't see what between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh 1971, what happened when Pakistan treated, Bengali, our race, 97, when they funded, they were giving less school, government, all the funding is the same. Same way in Sri Lanka, Senegalese government, what they were
But
doing.
do you not think that the Tamil Tiger as a movement or
LTT.
people LGT correct
Yeah.
or Tamil people actually have done a big disservice to their cause by resorting to such violent means of fighting back?
Yeah, but the thing is, if you've been attacked, if you've been attacked in your own land, what other way do you defend yourself? Do you know what I mean? If in daily, like same thing happened in like Palestine as well. How do you defend yourself if you got no means of still for a bullet and you have no? How do you defend yourself? But whatever happened. But I still think the president of Sri Lanka should come to The Hague internationally or independently.
The way we are making a long list of state rulers who should come to The Hague. Hague will have to become a country of its own with lots of political prisoners. I mean, from Bangladesh to Sri Lanka to Syria, you'll have them all there.
Yeah, but then again, we have corruption internationally, but what this man done is disgusting.
Okay,
I'm
thank
not
you.
sure most people in your views will agree with me.
Thank you very much for that call.
And he's still president. That's what disgusts me.
Well, Prime Minister of Bangladesh is still the Prime Minister. But thank you. Let me let you go. People do remain. Bashar al-Assad is still the president of Syria. Does that change anything? Maybe it doesn't. Next caller. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Hello.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
I would like to ask, why don't the UN...
UN what? Why don't the UN what? Please.
Why don't the UN help people in Sri Lanka who are affected by the crime?
That's a very good question. We can ask that to the UN, but UN is not here tonight. But it's a very interesting question. But you see, the bigger question is, does UN have that kind of teeth? Does it have the power, the resources? UN is a body of nation states. And if nations don't have interest in looking into a problem like the problem in Sri Lanka, UN cannot move by itself independently, can it?
It probably can. I mean, in March 2014, there have been already 2 resolutions in the UN Human Rights Council with regard to Sri Lanka. The first 2 resolutions gave time to the Sri Lankan government to establish a local accountability mechanism and to usher in a program of trying to resolve some of the post-war questions that we've been talking about. The Sri Lankan government has done nothing about it. The UN Human Rights Commissioner has just last September submitted a report to the UN Human Rights Council, an oral update where she says that there hasn't been progress and when she recommends international investigation. So the UN has an opportunity, the member states of the UN Human Rights Council, 47 in number, have an opportunity in March to pass a resolution calling for international independent investigations. But if we move beyond the UN Human Rights Council, you have the UN Security Council as well, and this is where the China problem comes in, China and Russia in particular.
We see that same problem, same infestation of disgusting veto that these countries use with Syria.
If not for the veto, I think the UN Security Council, I mean, the way it works is because Sri Lanka is not a signatory to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. The only way in which a country that is not a signatory can be referred to is by way of a UN Security Council referral. Now, the problem with that is that Russia and China will hold back. But if there is sufficient pressure, if for example, a commission of inquiry is appointed in March by the UN Human Rights Council that actually brings out the facts in terms of what happened during the last stages 4, I think significant international pressure can be brought on to Russia and China in terms of...
Maybe Tamil people should lodge a case against Mr. Raja, what is the full name, Paksha, in The Hague, so that if he comes out of that country, he could be arrested. Let me take a call. Hello, salam alaikum, caller. Hello, salam alaikum.
Hello, assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Who's calling?
Abdul Qayyum speaking.
How are you, Abdul Qayyum?
I am fine, alhamdulillah.
What would you like to say tonight?
I like to say, I was watching the news last week about the conference and things and that. So some of the things I like to know. You know, they're saying the 30 years of civil war. Is it possible really to investigate such a long period of time? And number one. Number two is, you know, when the president said, the Sri Lankan president said that the people living in glass house shouldn't throw the stone. What it means, I don't know from you.
Okay, fair enough. I think he's probably talking about Mr. Cameron having the country called Britain on his shoulder that went and invaded Iraq and have caused brutalities in many other parts of the world. America, which has sent drones to kill people in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Somalia, and many other countries. So these crooks and criminals in his eyes should not be preaching holy words. That's what probably he meant, right? I don't know. Is that right? Am I on the right side?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So the biggest question the caller has raised is it possible to investigate such a long war?
Yes, it's possible to investigate it, because there is history that in places like, in Germany we investigated, like in other countries it has happened in African nations, so it's possible. But the point being is that the maximum or the maximum brutality was towards the end on the conflict. I mean, there's a clear-cut evidence. I mean, we are not talking about primitive ages. We are talking about the US has satellite images. We have every citizen, or like every armed forces have mobile phones. Even like, people that have mobile phones.
Just to establish one thing, I hear what you're saying. Please clarify one thing. Are you saying no matter who has perpetrated the brutality, whether it is LTT or the government, you as Tamil people are happy to submit to an international investigation?
Definitely. I mean, we really want to go beyond that. Okay. And we wanted to actually see who else was involved, because we always, at British Tamil Forum, we call for an international independent investigation into war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide committed by all parties.
Okay, stop
all
there.
All parties outside the country.
And inside. Okay, I understand that. We're running out of time. So, do you agree with that proposal, Opali? That
not at this stage.
So you're saying there should be no investigation international?
Not at the moment.
Why not? What have you got to hide?
There's nothing to hide. It's as far as the Sri Lankan government is concerned, it has said that it will carry on its own investigation.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. You know, there has been an accusation against Independent Police Complaints Commission in Britain as a commission that has never found a single police officer of any guilty crime in its history. Now, the government has strongly proposed, or investigations have, external sources have proposed that this body should be disbanded because everyone who sits on it are police officers or ex-police officers. Similarly, if Sri Lankan government, who has been accused of genocide and war crime, is investigating its own crime, it is very unlikely that it will do anything but do a watered down and self-appraisal of something that will make itself very wonderful.
That is a point of view that one can entertain, but there is nothing stopping. The Sri Lankan government has taken the first phase of the
Why not together? Let the government do its own and let the international one do as well.
Yeah, the international forum can watch what they are doing. And if time permits later on, if there is a necessity, yes.
Let me come into this. That's categorically.
30 seconds.
Categorically, Sri Lanka have rejected all the UN Human Rights Council resolutions and categorically rejected any international...
I can't believe a small country like Sri Lanka who has the power to reject United Nations resolutions. But you know what, ladies and
Chinese
gentlemen,
support.
we're going to have to, Chinese forces, did you say?
With Chinese support.
Oh, Chinese support, sorry. Well, you know what, we'll have to leave it here tonight. The resolution of this program is, there is no resolution, I'm afraid. Sri Lankan communities will probably not see peace for years and years. But you know, the story of humanity, unfortunately, looks like the cycle of violence will continue. And we as people who are watching this program can either sit on our comfortable chairs and watch, or we could make a difference by getting involved. So I suggest you go and study more about what's happening in Sri Lanka and take an objective view and try and pressurize your government, your MP, so that our governments can do the right thing. Anyway, my deep thanks to my guests here for their time and to you for making the program so interesting and for your phone calls. Until next time, I'm going to say goodbye. So don't worry, I'll be back on inshallah next Tuesday at the same time in the same program. So stay tuned. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Global Aid Trust proudly presents Q Factor 2 on